The true story about the Wild West and westward expansion in America during the 18th through 19th century. The Wild West. When we think of it, we think of cowboys, horses, saloons, sheriffs. However, it was most likely not as wild and as the movies portray it to be. When people first began to move west, they had preconceived notions of what it was going to be like during the 18th into the 19th century. These false ideas most likely came from Frederick Jackson Turner's 1893 lecture, The Significance of the Frontier in American History. Within it, he argued that the West was responsible for key characteristics of American culture: democracy, equality, optimism, individualism, self-reliance, hard work. He theorized that the frontier was a process that transformed Europeans into new people, known as the Americans. For 18th and 19th century Americans, the Western frontier represented the opportunity to start over and get rich in the process, because they were told that the West was a land of endless prosperity. They were made to believe that they can travel westward with their families and live on unoccupied land, and people believed they would move west and their lives would become better overnight. Of course, all of this was a lie. The reality of the West was much more rugged and difficult than they were led to believe. First of all, the journey westward was awful, and people would constantly be getting sick, and people would die because there's not enough medication and they're on the road and it's dirty. The terrain was rugged because there are no streets or paved roads the way there are today, of course. It also took a really, really, really long time for them to get from the east side of America, so let's say Maryland, all the way to California. When they got to the West, they realized that there was nothing waiting for them. Everything the West was advertised to be was only going to be a reality through their own hard work and labor. They had to build their homes, their shops, their markets, anything they wanted, they had to build. If you haven't caught on already, North America was occupied way before Christopher Columbus ever stepped foot on American soil, and certainly before Americans began to move westward. There were Native Americans living all over the United States, and in the West there were even Chinese immigrants, Mexican migrant workers, and former slaves. However, as we know about Christopher Columbus and his experiences with Native Americans, it was definitely not all turkey and stuffing. During the 19th century, with the Industrial Revolution in full swing, there was an economic and, of course, racial importance to move the Native Americans off their land. Initially, the land was needed to set down railroad tracks and then for farming purposes, but eventually it was exploited for minerals like gold and iron. The best way I can describe what happened to Native Americans during this time was: imagine you're hanging out in your house, chilling, having a good time, and all of a sudden a group of random people march in. They're in your kitchen, going through your pantry, they're in your bedroom, touching your video games. They lay on your bed and forcefully kick you out, declaring that this is their house now. Replace yourself with Native Americans and pretend those random people were actually American soldiers, and you have a common story, or the common story, for Native Americans that were pushed onto reservations. Reservations were designed to be designated areas so that Native Americans could still live in America, but do so in contained areas where they can do their own thing without interference from the government. Of course, it wasn't exactly like this because the American government always has to put their 2 cents in. There's, of course, much more to this story, but that's all I'm going to say for now. Stay tuned for when we talk about missing bison, what life is really like on the reservations, how trains changed not only the West, but America in general, and what the heck that first picture on this video is about. Manifest Destiny? What does that even mean?